In this tutorial, we're going to go over how to export a file from Daz Studio, import into 3D Studio Max, and clean up some of the naming conventions and bones and some of the structure of the FBX file, and then export an FBX file that can be imported into Unreal Engine. Once in Unreal Engine, we're going to use the mannequin skeleton as a base for the animations, and we'll retarget our skeleton from Daz Studio, in this case the Genesis 3 character, to the Unreal Engine mannequin. Once retargeted, we'll be able to use our character skeleton for any other character imports, and it will share that skeleton and any animations that go with it. Okay, the first thing that we're going to want to do is export this character from Daz to an FBX file. I'll call it Spacesuit. And under the Edit Morph Export rules, I've got these morphs that I want to export. You can export CSV presets. We scroll through all the morphs of this character, we can find that the morphs that we wanted to export should say yes next to them. Okay, and then in 3D Studio Max, we're going to import that file. And I use automatic scaling. Okay. The first thing I like to do is rename the root bone to root. And then I will name the body to the character and then body. It's just a naming convention I like to do. In this case, I'll just say female body. And you want to keep the morpher on the body if you're using morphs. If not, then it's something you can ignore. And then I'll rename all the clothes and hair assets or shapes to something else and delete the morpher from them. Then I like to rename all the morphs to, I like just to delete all this extra stuff off so that it looks a little cleaner once it's in Unreal. And one thing about the morph names, as you can see, they have a little green box. This indicates there's a morph object in the scene. And if the morph object's in the scene, it'll actually not see these new names in Unreal Engine. So you're going to want to make sure that they're renamed. And we can actually have a way to fix this in a second, I'll show. So right now I'm deleting the helmet bone. This is something I like to do, is go through the skeleton and clean all the bones out. The Genesis character should have 173 bones total in it. And then I like to take all the shape objects and unlink them from the skeleton. This way they don't appear as bones when you import into Unreal, that they're actually just shape objects. Okay, and as you can see now, if I move the character, the helmet is not attached anymore because we deleted that helmet bone. So to get it fixed back onto the skeleton, we're going to select the skin modifier and envelope from the helmet and turn on vertices, then select all the helmet's vertices and make sure the head bone is selected in the list here. And I believe it's a rigid object, so I have that selected. Change this to 1. And now all the vertices should turn red. This indicates that their values are at 1. We can turn off this and get out of the envelope editing. And now when we grab the root skeleton and move it, you can see the helmet is actually attached to the head bone now, correctly like it should. So once I get this all cleaned up, I like to save to a 3D Studio Max file. And then this is what I was talking about before with the morph names. What you want to do is, after you save the max file, you want to reopen the file. This will clear the scene. You can close the file, reopen it, or any other method. I just hit reopen. So now when we select the body and the morpher, you're going to see a blue box next to the morph names, indicating that the morph is in the character, but the morph objects are gone. And like I was saying, what happens is if you don't do this, all the renaming that was done to the morph won't be applied when you export to the FBX. So somehow it just keeps the original names. But just closing and reopening the file before you do this export should fix that problem. And then when I export, I do a scale factor to centimeters. And axis conversion is Y up. Okay, in Unreal, I already created some folder structure here, and inside here we'll import, I called it base because this will be the main skeleton and main everything. So we'll import that character, FBX file. And here, because it's the first skeleton, we're going to choose it to import the skeletal mesh and just leave skeleton as none. If you're using morphs, you're going to want to import morph targets. Select create physics asset. And any other options you see like materials and textures. And then hit import. And save all. Now you can create a blueprint for this character if you want with special stuff, but we'll get to that in a little bit. First, we're going to retarget. So we'll open up the skeletal mesh for the Unreal character, and this one may already be set up, but if you'd select a rig humanoid, if not, and it should already have all these bones like matched because of the naming structure. Everything should pretty much be ready to go. And if you view pose, this should be the same similar T-pose to the character we just imported. And in this case, the skeleton's already taken care of. But if not, you would just go to the skeleton tree and select the different bones and rotate to get somewhere, and then you just hit save pose. So going back to our skeleton here, the new skeleton will have to do the same thing. In this case, it's going to be a little more difficult because of the naming convention. So I pose, that's the original pose, view pose. This will be the retargeting pose. Like I said, you can adjust that and hit save pose once you get it to what you like. So we got our current skeleton. We're going to select a humanoid rig. And as you can see here, we got all the bones that need to be matched up to similar bone names. And the bone for the ball R and ball L would actually be the toe in the Genesis 3 character. So right toe. Okay, save this. So now that retargeting should be saved to the skeleton, and then show all, and we're going to select root and recursively change the name to skeleton, and then only 2 of the bones need to be changed here, one being pelvis to animation and abdomen lower to animation. And this works for the Genesis 3 character. It may be different if you're using different characters. So now selecting the anim blueprint, I'm just going to retarget that. And I like to put a prefix, G3, for the G3 character. Select the spacesuit skeleton, and then set the directory where you want all the retargeted animations to go. Check out a folder here. And when you hit retarget, it should retarget that anim blueprint, and it brings along all the required animations in this case. Save all. And you can, like I was saying, you can create a blueprint here, but I'm just going to copy this one and change the mesh and the anim class to the one we just retargeted. And I'm going to set the auto possess player so we can jump right into this character when we hit play. Save the scene first and then hit play. And there we go. The character is running its retargeted animations from the Unreal skeleton. So now you can go into, the same process and create multiple characters. I already did this for the next character. All we have to do is select another folder and hit import. And in this case, since it's a character, we just want to select the skeleton we already created. And the physics asset that was already created, so it's going to share basically the same 2 assets from the spacesuit. And once again, I'll just copy this character. And then change the mesh. And the anim blueprint stays the same. We'll change this to disabled, and this should already be good. So now when we hit play, first I'll save, hit play, and now this character should be running. And that was pretty quick and easy without having to set up a bunch of different animations and stuff for each different character. This one's actually using the skeleton and the scaling and everything should be good. You know, if you have a taller character or different angles, the retargeting should be pretty close. In the next tutorial, I'm going to want to go over like if a foot is exported wearing shoes from Daz, and what kind of adjustments we can do in either Daz or 3D Studios to correct the problem. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in part 2.